growing up, such as women, African Americans, physically, emotionally disabled, non-English speakers, the currently homeless, farm workers, old people, overweight people, I experience a disconnect with members of these oppressed groups. Well, this has been pretty isolating for me, as you can imagine, not to be able to feel close or equal or trusting with the majority of people in my life. I start to understand how African American Black Lives Matter protesters may feel anger and frustration with both racism and their own internalized oppression. I start to understand my own sense of dominant identities and my dominance or my entitlement related flaws. Here's another look at internalized dominance. I was preparing for this presentation and found a well-written article by Kel Cray on internalized dominance. And in it, I thought this quote had some power. It's from a woman who grew up in an all-white neighborhood, a white woman, and she went to an all-black summer camp at 8 years old. And you can see the quote here. From the moment I was born, I've been treated as a girl, but it wasn't until I was 8 years old that I found out that I was white. Others of her quotes I found powerful were these listed. Internalized dominance is the fuel with which the oppression monster feeds itself. If men don't acknowledge that they benefit from sexism, then gender inequity remains status quo. This next one may offend many, and the urge to deny it is strong. If white people don't acknowledge that they benefit from racism, they are co-signing onto white supremacy. Here are two others. Many of us carry internalized dominance in some form or another, as able-bodied folks, as United States citizens, as white folks, as cis men, as straight folks. And lastly, for a gay man to stand in solidarity with a lesbian woman with whom he shares a marginalized sexuality, but carries a dominant gender, he must unlearn his internalized sexism. And that article, you can see the web link to it. It talks a lot about unlearning our marginalized oppression and our marginalized and our internalized dominance. Okay, so here we begin to segue to the CalAm groundwater desalination project. Individual racism is the beliefs and attitudes that we as individuals carry that can lead to racism. They can be conscious, unconscious, active, or passive, telling a racist joke, believing in the inherent superiority of one ethnicity. That would be racism on the individual level. The systemic racism is policies and practices that create different results for different racial groups. These policies and practices may never mention a racial group, but their effect is to create advantages for a dominant ethnicity and disadvantage for marginalized people. A great example of systemic racism that's used to often explain what systemic racism looks like is the disproportionate use of minority communities for industrial facilities, landfills, power plants, sewage treatment plants, sand mines, oil refineries, desalination plants. Okay, our last concept in this discussion is understanding that terminology is paramount to having meaningful conversation on Black Lives Matter topics. Diversity, inclusion, and equity are all different. They are not synonymous. So diversity exists when your environment includes a variety of working styles, ideas, experiences, being richly represented by individuals with different social identities or culture. Inclusion boils down to supporting and valuing the participation, the authentic participation of any individual or group. So if a highly qualified but first-time African American on your faculty or your management staff quits after 2 months, it's not a failure of diversity as much as perhaps it's a failure of the inclusiveness of your environment that wasn't well adjusted for people of color to fit in, or women, or young people, or whoever it is that's not well represented, whatever identity in your environment. So how can our creativity lead more young people and people of color to participate in boards of directors and management leadership positions of universities, nonprofits, and government agencies? It very well might require a disruption of our Eurocentric traditional perspectives that are not shared by marginal groups and cultures. My last two slides on this theme of Black Lives Matter address equity, which is the fundamental cry behind the recent social unrest in many countries. It's the fair treatment, opportunity, advancement, access. It's not equality. When implemented effectively, equitable practices work to dismantle barriers, such as those making it so hard for women and people of color to become leaders of large companies or US presidents, Supreme Court judges, universities, and National Football League football teams. Equality, on the other hand, is the uniform distribution of resources. So in this baseball illustration, the littlest fellow, given equal resources, is still left only seeing the wooden board of a fence, while his taller friends have a great view of the baseball game. In an equitable scenario, the littlest fellow would be provided the resources needed to participate fully. The third version from the left is the reality perceived by many Black Lives Matter protesters. Ideally, the far right, the fence as a structural barrier to fan participation would be taken down altogether, creating equity for everyone. However, it might be a little dangerous. You get hit by a home run ball, but it's just an example. All right. So I hope that this 10-minute dive into racism and dominant and marginalized social identities sparks our creativity to learn more about ourselves and improve our relations across ethnicities, across gender, across religions, sexual orientations, etc. Okay, well, that was a lot of work, and I appreciate everybody hanging with me there. So now we move to the other part of the presentation, and that is the CalAm groundwater desalination proposal. And to kick us off here, I want to let you see a picture, as we're looking at here, of Marina's coastline environmental setting. You can see how vast and largely intact it is. But I don't know if you can see my cursor right here. Rachel, can you see that cursor moving around?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. So the waves come in and they fall into a deep pit that a sand mine has dug back in 1906. And up until today, it's still operating. That deep pit fills in with sand brought in by the ocean. They dredge it out, they ship it over to their sand plant, they put it in bags after washing it, and they sell it all around the world. And then the water brings in more sand. So instead of building up the dunes, the sand is exported, out of the region. And so then when the energy of the ocean hits the sand dunes, it takes away the sand because there's not the deposit of sand continually protecting it. So there's a negative balance, a negative budget. We're taking sand away, leaving nothing for no new sand to resist the energy of the waves. And so they take away, so far they've taken away 75 acres of our land within the city limits of Marina just because of this negative budget. But we'll touch on that sand mine a little bit later, but I did want you to understand that because that's the last time we're going to see such a nice picture of this vision here. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet for a bit, and Rachel's going to play a 5-minute video. Some of you may have seen before. I've seen it many times, and I always get a lot out of it. So I don't mind seeing it multiple times.
I'm going to unshare the screen for a moment and flip over to our video. I'm sure there's a slicker way to do that, but okay. And please use the chat to let me know if there's any troubles with this as we play.
Water would like you to be aware of a classic case of environmental injustice that is unfolding right here in Marina and the Ord communities. Our story of environmental injustice begins with knowing who Marina and Ord communities are. We are a small city of about 22,000 located just north of the wealthy tourist area of the Monterey Peninsula. We are one of the few remaining undeveloped coastal cities where disadvantaged people live and easily walk to pristine beaches. Here are some key demographics from the July 1st, 2018 U.S. Census population estimates. Marina has 35.8% white alone, meaning 64% are non-whites. Marina has 14.4% persons in poverty. Marina has a per capita income in the past 12 months of $27,211. Marina and the Ord communities have shouldered an unfair burden of regional projects. Marina has been tasked with one of the highest mandatory requirements in the region to build affordable housing units. The regional landfill, as well as the regional sewage plant, create impacts to air quality for Marina residents. With the CalAm project, we are expected to shoulder even more of the region's burdens and suffer all the environmental risks and harms. Marina will not receive one drop of water from this project. In fact, it is all for a neighboring jurisdiction's sole benefit. Marina and the Ord communities are currently served by the small, effective, publicly elected Marina Coast Water District. For decades, MCWD has been delivering clean water at one of the lowest rates in the region. By contrast, the peninsula receives water from its purveyor, CalAm, a private, for-profit corporation that levies the highest rates of water in the country. After overdrafting the Seaside Basin and overpumping the Carmel River, CalAm is in search for a new water source for the peninsula. CalAm is attempting to reach beyond their own jurisdiction into Marina Coast Water District's service area without invitation. CalAm is stating that their project will pump ocean water, but in fact, they will pump brackish and fresh groundwater from aquifers beneath the land, not beneath the ocean. Our basin, the Salinas Valley Groundwater Basin, has been listed by the State Water Board as one of California's 21 critically overdrafted basins. Extraction of groundwater will occur from nearly the entire length of each slant well pipe, causing more seawater intrusion and further contamination of our basin, our sole source of potable water. CalAm's justification of this illegal water grab is that they can obtain future appropriative groundwater rights. However, in this very assertion, they are admitting that groundwater rights are relevant and they currently have zero water rights. Our breathtaking beaches are home to the threatened species, the western snowy plover, and many other shorebirds. Our love for the western snowy plover is reflected in our downtown banners: Grover the Plover, mascot for Citizens for Sustainable Marina, and ads for new homes in Marina. The western snowy plover was adopted by the city as our official shorebird. The CalAm project will adversely impact more than 30 acres of sensitive habitats. In 2017, the Coastal Commission, State Lands Commission, and the City of Marina passed the historic CMIX Settlement Agreement. This agreement ended the last active sand mining on any U.S. shores. When the CMIX plant finally closes, the land will be restored to its natural habitat, bought by public agencies, and dedicated to conservation and low-impact recreation in perpetuity. What is currently private land now will be publicly accessible in the future. However, this is the exact same site of the proposed CalAm desalination slant wells. The project would bring several large cement pads, pumping infrastructure, fencing, roads, as well as the pipes necessary to service this project right on our pristine and rare dunes. The City of Marina has had to expend $1 million of our public funds to defend our water this past year, with $1 million more before this battle is over. Our roads need major repairs. We desperately need a new fire truck, more police hires, and a senior center. Our civic hall and city offices are in 43-year-old portables. Historically, most disadvantaged communities cannot successfully rally against the operational sophistication of major corporations, nor do they have the funding to support multiple legal challenges and expensive public relations campaigns. This is the heart of environmental injustice. And what is most troubling is that there is a feasible recycled water project, the Pure Water Monterey Expansion Project, that could satisfy the peninsula's water needs for decades to come and avoid all the devastation to Marina and the Ord communities. The Coastal Commission's new environmental justice policy gives hope that our voices can be heard. Please give weight and meaning to environmental justice per your new policy.
Save our water! Save our coast!
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry, I might have been blocking part of the screen somehow. Not quite sure, still learning with Zoom.
All right.
All right, yeah, that's great. I can see your screen that we left off with, the slide that we left off with.
Okay. Yeah, I really like that video a lot. It was done by volunteers, 100%. They were not experts. I think it might have been the first video they ever put together, but they put a lot of hearts into it, and it really shows.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Okay. Yeah. So we looked at the environmental setting before we saw that video, and some of this is going to be supporting what we saw in the video, but who we are besides the environmental setting as far as the people. Marina has a population of about 22,000. 66% of us are Korean, African American, Vietnamese, Japanese, Hispanic, other non-white ethnicities. There's 52 languages and dialects spoken by Marina families. And as Audra, who narrated that video, said in the video, there's about a 30,000 per capita income. 11% of us are in poverty. But it's a beautiful, wonderful, humble, down-to-earth, friendly, kind, and safe town. And that's probably worth gold. All right. So the past and future of Marina includes this multinational sand mining plant, the last one remaining on any U.S. coastline. It took years of struggle to get it to close after 114 years of operation. As I mentioned, 75 acres have been lost due to the sand mining's increased erosion. And there's been 270,000 cubic tons of sand removed each year. And it didn't go easy. The sand mine was a battle, as we mentioned, and the city of Marina had to declare it a nuisance and pursue legal action to stop the free use of our property that was causing so much damage and interfering with the enjoyment of our life and property. Those are sort of technical legal terms, not too fancy, but that's what you have to declare when you declare a public nuisance. And we have a lot of thanks to go around to environmental organizations and governments in the state of California that worked with the city. We couldn't have done it alone. And that is true, of course, you can imagine, with any fight against any large, powerful corporation. The solutions included a negotiated settlement, ending the sand mining this year and giving them 3 years to clean it up. And then they must sell it to a nonprofit for passive uses only, so no more future mining. And then the nonprofit is going to use the land instead of for industrial, for habitat restoration, public access, and environmental education uses. Okay, so now we're really going to jump into the CalAm specifics. California American Water, also known as CalAm, is a subsidiary. They're called a regulated state, technically, to American Water, which is the largest United States publicly traded water and wastewater utility company. So these are the big boys. And you can see not just California American Water, but a lot of different states have their subsidiary corporations within the American Water. So that's one big player in all of this, and that's primarily who it is that we are up against. Others that are involved, besides CalAm, are the California Coastal Commission, who is a central player this week and next week. They'll make the final decision next week. A couple of advocacy groups, one in Marina, based mostly in Marina, Citizens for Just Water, one primarily based in the Monterey Carmel PG area called Public Water Now. The Water Management District of the Monterey Peninsula are the ones that will buy out CalAm if we're on a road to do that. Should be great. The Marina Coast Water District, you saw in the video, are the ones who provide the water to the Marina and the former Fort Ord and part of Seaside and nearby city. So 2 cities and then a large area of unincorporated land are served by Marina Coast Water District. Monterey One Water is the agency that provides recycled water in a project called Pure Water Monterey. We'll hear just a touch more about that, and you have heard about that in that video. The other players are the cities of Seaside, Monterey, Carmel, and a few others. Citizens for Just Water visits local and state leaders, lobbying them, and public agencies to tell the story of Marina and the harms and flaws of the groundwater extraction proposal. Citizens for Just Water also do a lot of public workshops. They circulate petitions, and they do a variety of public activist events. So that's the group from Marina. And then the Public Water Now is a 501c3 nonprofit. And most importantly, they got on the ballot in November 2018 with Measure J. Measure J would buy out CalAm if possible, so that it would be a publicly run water company. At least the pipes and the infrastructure would be owned by Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, a public agency. And that feasibility study is well underway, and it looks very promising that the public will make a lot of money by buying out CalAm. Even though it's going to be expensive, the cost of private water is so much more expensive than public water because you have to pay for everything plus profit. Whereas for public water, you pay for the pipes, you pay for the energy, but you don't pay somebody to make a buck on what you're doing. It's a public nonprofit arrangement. So even though CalAm spent millions of dollars trying to trick people into saying no to Measure J, with a couple $100,000 of public money, citizens' money, the Measure J passed 56-44. And I like to imagine what it would have been like if there would have been millions of dollars to say yes and $200,000 to say no. It might have been 70 or 80%, but this 56% comes against millions of dollars that swamped the public's ability to campaign in that case. So yay, Public Water Now, and hopefully we're on the road for CalAm to be bought out. But this is our deja vu. Another industrial facility, this one's the CalAm. This shows you the 36-acre area that CalAm would commandeer to put in their pipes, their infrastructure, their roads, their wellheads, their single-story electrical power buildings, and basically prevent the public from getting the access to a restored, beautiful dune system, which is the plan right now if CalAm doesn't come in. This is kind of a schematic of what all those slant wells would look like. These lines here are what the slant wells would be underground. These are all the wellheads, which are little buildings. And then this is a close-up showing that each pad is about 6,000 square feet. So that's about 3 times the size of an average 1,600 square foot marina home. So these are fairly large pads, and they'll be supported by roads and single-story buildings that don't exist there at this time. And hopefully they never will. That's kind of what it will look like. And the reasons it matters are many. Stanford University has done a cutting-edge study using cutting-edge technology to basically image, like an MRI, the fresh groundwater that's within 400 feet of the aquifer serving marina. So I'm sure I said that wrong. It's fresh water that's above and within the 400-foot aquifer. So an aquifer is like a pool of water, a lake of water underground. And there are different aquifers at different depths. They're all separated by somewhat impervious layers of clay, and those are called aquitards. And so you have an aquifer and then aquitard, aquifer, aquitard, kind of like a layering like lasagna. So this study has showed that if we're going to be pumping water for the CalAm to take water out from underneath marina to be able to desalinate it if it needs to be, and then sold to Monterey, PG, et cetera, that when they pump out that water, it will be replaced with seawater intrusion. The last few years, underground water has been flowing toward the ocean. And so you can imagine if you intercept that water and you suck it up, that will no longer be running toward the ocean. It will be sucked up into pipes. And then the seawater will come inland and replace where there was fresh water. The problem with that is that there is communication between the aquifers through the aquitards. not in all cases, are the aquatards solid, thick barriers. They have interruptions, they have holes or fissures in them. And so it's always better if there's fresh water sitting on top of the aquifer that you take your drinking water from than if there was seawater sitting on top of the aquifer from which you take your drinking water. And so that's why we want to protect the groundwater that's above our 400-foot aquifer where we get our drinking water. So these wells, these extraction wells, they would take the water from the 180-foot aquifer, and that aquifer has been classified as one of the critically overdrafted. So it's already got problems in the state of California. And the Marina Coast Water District's job is to make it better. The last thing we need is for an outsider corporation that has no responsibility for making things better to come in and make things worse. This is a result of the MRI. If you imagine this is just a picture using resistivity flyovers with helicopters, they can use saline concentrations of total dissolved solids, and they can use the different kinds of sand and rock that ping off, that rebound messages or frequencies back up to the helicopter flying over land, so that the product is an MRI showing blue for freshwater, what looks to me, I'm colorblind, this lighter color, maybe yellow, which is moderately saline, and then the red would be more saline. So it's a color differentiation, with blue being freshwater. So the freshwater is perched above the more saline water, and then below that are some other aquifers. So we don't want CalAm to come in and take this freshwater and have it intruded with salt water. And this over here on the right, it shows this, looks like a blue line to me. This is the capture zone. Inside here, these wells that are along this line would capture the fresh water that's in this area. And this area includes the area to the left. And so we really want to keep this area protected, so we can start to find ways of turning all of this into blue and not removing the remainder of the blue and making it all worse. Other reasons it matters is environmental justice. Regardless of our color, our origin, our income, everybody's entitled to equal protection from harms and risks in the environment. We did mention earlier, we're 66% non-white. Our per capita income is less than the county overall, Monterey County, where Marina is part of. And we already have in Marina the region's landfill, the region's sewage treatment plant, the regional sand mine. We have the anaerobic digester, which is an outdoor composting facility. So you can see when you put all these industrial facilities in the poorer community of color to serve everyone, primarily the more affluent communities, that is a poster example of systemic racism. And so last month, August 25th, the California Coastal Commission published a report. On page 2, it says, the CalAm project involves the most significant environmental justice concerns the Commission has considered since it adopted its environmental justice policy. 100 pages later, the proposed project results in adverse coastal resource effects within the community marina that's already disproportionately burdened by many other industrial uses and would receive none of the project benefits. There's a long history of government institutions allowing unwanted industrial development to be concentrated in underserved communities of color without their consent. Approving yet another would perpetuate this discriminatory land use practice against marina. So that's the state government's California Coastal Commission report, quote, unquote, from August 25th, just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in just for a minute with a 5-minute warning. We want to make sure to leave a little time for questions at the end. So just letting you know, it's getting toward the,
Okay, we'll move so fast that we'll be done in hopefully 60 seconds. So CalAm already has the highest water costs in the nation. We don't want them going any higher. It matters because of rare plants, vernal pools, which are wetlands, and we want to restore the area. We don't want another industrial use. There's an alternative mentioned earlier called Pure Water Monterey. It's only $200 million, which is a lot of money, but it's not $1.2 billion for the CalAm project. So the CalAm project would waste $1 billion unnecessarily of public money. And then once it starts operating, the desalinated water is 3 times as expensive as the recycled water. It's $6,000 versus $2,000 per acre foot. So we want to get the more affordable. And this is my last slide before we turn it over to Kathy. It's really up to us to protect our resources. Special thanks to all of you at MIIS and the Center for the Blue Economy. This is what we want. We want to see these endangered species with their little chicks, snowy plovers, on the beaches thriving and recovering their endangered populations. This is what we don't want to see, is mining with heavy equipment in sensitive wildlife areas. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathy Biala. Kathy, I know that we've got that 5-minute warning, but if you can come on, Kathy, and Rachel will try to help you, as I will, since I am. Here we go. So you should be ready to go, Kathy.
Great. Okay, thank you, everyone. Just want to reinforce again some of the instructions, because this is the call to action. Next week could make history, and we would like you all to be part of it. I'm sorry, I just realized that my video is not on. So there we go. So we want you to be part of it, and there are several ways that you can do it, and it's fast coming upon us. It is next Thursday, so a week and a half away. So the first thing you can do is write an email, and you can do this just up to this Friday, so you've got to be pretty quick about it. And we have on our Citizens for Just Water website an example of this, which shows you who to send it to and what you put in the title of the email. And then you go ahead, and we're hoping that you can attach a photo of yourself or your family, so that among the hundreds of emails that I'm sure are going to come to the Coastal Commission for this project decision, that the people from our area, from Marina and the Ord communities, will be able to be seen as real people behind this protest and opposition to the CalAm slant wells. So we're asking you to please attach a picture. And then the next way that you can participate is speaking. Granted, it's now cut down to only 1 minute, but you can say quite a bit if you structure it very tightly. And if you need some help in choosing a topic or how to say it in 60 seconds, we'd be very happy to help you on with Citizens for Just Water. And my recommendation, because I've written so many of these 1 minute speeches, is that you keep it to under 150 words. Generally 120 to 130 words would help you, just in case you make a little mistake in enunciations. And when you speak, you apply online, but Citizens for Just Water can do this for you. So it's a great service. It is it's actually a little bit of a complicated online registration. And if you do it through Citizens for Just Water, we will just ask some basic information in order to go ahead and apply for you. You will get a confirmation back from Citizens for Just Water when we've completed it. You will get another email immediately from the Coastal Commission, basically showing all the application points that you put on your online application, or that we did for you. And then you will receive another email, and it's going to be from CACC. Now that stands for California Coastal Commission, but you're not going to ever see California Coastal Commission written out. So please do not think that spam or delete it, because that will have the link for the Zoom meeting that you will go onto and wait until your name is called. And you need to say that. If you lose that for some reason, Citizens for Just Water can help you regain that link. But that's not to be shared with everyone else, because the rest of the public will go on C-SPAN, which is a live video stream of the meeting. Only that link is for speakers, okay? So we want to encourage you to do that. You have up until September 16th at 5 p.m. to register to be a speaker. You can also visit Citizens for Just Water at the Marina Farmers Market. And at that site, we're going to have signing petitions, and also we can take photographs with the Western Snowy Plover poster that was on Bruce's presentation. And we are going to use all those things in our comments to the Coastal Commission in terms of presenting collages of people in Marina and Ord communities to the Coastal Commission, as well as the stacks of signed petition letters. On the day of the hearing, it will be very interesting for you to get on at 9 o'clock. However, if you just have time to get on for the speaking part, we are to start at 1 o'clock first with groups. I just heard 5 minutes ago that there's an inordinate amount of groups signed up. So I'm not sure what Coastal Commission is going to do, because following the groups will be the individual speakers of allowing 1 minute. Groups can speak for 5 minutes, so it could go on longer than we first anticipated. So, but that's your decision of when you want to come on. Probably 2 is safe. Even later is probably going to be good at this time. So that's on the day of the hearing, and I think that I've pretty much covered everything. And you're going to see this post again, but we're going to have lots of information on citizensforjustwater.com.
Thanks a lot, Kathy. Kathy deserves a lot of thanks for being the leader of Marina's community, fighting CalAm for years now. She's fantastically competent and a wonderful person to share in this endeavor. Thank you very much, Kathy Biala. She's also running for city council, so that's great. All right. Rachel, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Mayor Delgado. I think if you'd like to maybe leave that call to action slide up, that would be great as we go through Q&A. And if not, I can also, in addition to this, I'll post it in the event link where people found this event, so that after today, people can find it. But now I'd like to take a few minutes for questions and answers. And I think since we have about 80 of us here on the line, rather than kind of do the blanket unmute, which I might with a smaller group, you can do one of 2 things. You can use the raise hand function, and I can come to you, or you can type your question in the chat, and then I know to unmute you, or I'm happy to read your questions. So we'll see if anyone.
They can practice their 1-minute speeches.
That's right. Give it a second here. While we're waiting for questions, I heard a presentation by Seaside's Mayor Oglesby to a local community church here. And you know, the pastor at the time was thinking, well, you know, how can we build if we don't have desal? And Mayor Oglesby very kindly, you know, let him know that even if desal happened, you know, like Marina, Seaside's not going to benefit from that. And that there is another, you know, a way to have water and growth for the next up to 2045, I believe, with the recycled water, pure water now. But he also mentioned something I hadn't heard before, which he thought regionally that desal might need to happen, but not here. Is that just pushing the problem down the future? Is it saying not in my backyard? What would you say to it has to go, a desal plant needs to be up in Santa Cruz or in some other place?
Well, wherever a desal goes in the future, it's probably coming, and it might be a few decades. You know, it's not uncommon. We're all accustomed to technology rapidly improving. So the future desal facilities are going to be a lot more environmentally friendly than the past or today's. So by waiting, we get a better desal, and we get a truly regional desal. It's not just the Monterey area, but Marina will eventually probably need additional water. Santa Cruz County and the city of Santa Cruz, east of us, San Benito County, other parts of Monterey County, everybody's pretty much in the same boat. So it doesn't really make any sense for one little area to go ahead with their own desal, and then other areas have to install or construct their own desal. So we might end up with 3 or 4 desals, desalination plant, and that doesn't make any sense. There should be benefits spread throughout, adverse impacts spread throughout. It's a fair game. It's not a it's not a win-lose. It should be a win-win where everybody shares the costs, everybody shares the benefits, and that's not what's going on right now. So yeah, a future regional, a truly regional desal plant, it might not be in our lifetime, but it's probably coming in the future. You're muted, Rachel.
I'm going to unmute Natasha Lara Hood and see if I can find her here on my list. And she had a very good question.
I'm going to stop sharing so maybe I can see people better.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Natasha, I'm making my way to you. There you are. Okay. And,
hello, Natasha.
You should be unmuted now.
Natasha Lara Hood. That's a nice
name. So I'm interested in emergency management, and especially with coastal communities and the future outlook of those kind of communities with climate change and natural hazards. So I was wondering, given the impending impacts of climate change on the coastline, how would CalAm's plan affect the future of Marina in terms of like the community's vulnerability to climate change and hazards?
That's a great question, and I wish you well, Natasha, in your future. Climate change and sea level rise are very intricately aligned. And so how it's going to affect Marina is, as the climate continues to change, the coastal erosion is going to continue to advance into Marina, inland. And as it does that, it's going to take away the sand where CalAm's pipes and infrastructure will be put in if they get the permission, which we don't want them to have permission. And so that makes the project even more economically infeasible if it's only going to be good for 20 to 40 years, and then they have to pull up or move their infrastructure, but they don't have any legal rights to land any further inland, so they have no place to move. So at that point, they would probably put pressure on Marina to come into by then our urban developed areas, because they need to supply Monterey, Carmel, et cetera, with water. But they can't do it with the wells and the infrastructure they're going to put in if they get their way within a few years, because those will be eroded and away. So it's a really good question. Climate change is going to affect Marina's beaches and coastline, and we have a very strong retreat policy, where when certain triggers are hit, then that will trigger us to move our buildings back from the coast. And we're not going to put any more buildings in that zone near the coast where we would have to move them back. So we're in the process of planning a managed retreat. The last thing that makes any sense is to put new infrastructure so close to the beach that it's going to have to be retreated in the near future, where it doesn't have anywhere to go. So did that answer your question, Natasha? Okay, I see your thumb up. Thanks.
And I do want to respect people's times. We are at 7 o'clock. I'm happy to stay on. Mayor Delgado, Kathy, if you're also happy to stay on. If you didn't get a chance to ask your question, please do write it in the chat before you go, and I'll try to read that as well. And maybe we can give it another, I'm happy to stay another half hour if you guys are.
Yeah, and I'm on till midnight. A pizza arrives, I think, in about 2 hours.
Okay. Okay,
but anything that's in the chat box, I'll stay on long enough to make sure I answer the chat questions. And then
okay.
Rachel, you probably have a way
Yeah, I'm gonna,
copy and distribute those.
Unmute Carol Roberts. So Carol, go ahead, and you had a question.
Carol, you're muted.
Oops. I'm attempting to unmute her. There she goes.
Oh, there we go. It might be just a point of clarification. Bruce, I thought in your presentation you said that California Coastal Commission said that what CalAm wants to do is environmental injustice. But maybe what you said was a report to the Coastal Commission? It seemed like the Coastal Commission is already in Marina's favor.
I wouldn't, I don't want to speak for the Coastal Commission as far as being in our favor, but
go ahead.
They published a report the California Coastal Commission on August 25th, a couple weeks ago. And in that report, it stated those quotes that I mentioned. Quotes such as, this is the most environmental justice wise, this is the most serious issue that's come up since they've had their policy of environmental justice. And it was their quote that talked about how Marina is already disproportionately burdened with industrial facilities, and that this is a case of environmental justice already happening. And so another industrial facility such as CalAm is proposing would only make it worse for environmental justice in Marina. So, you know, if you follow the report by the Coastal Commission staff, you would believe that they agree with most of what Marina has been saying for years. But to say that they're in favor of Marina, you know, they are an impartial body, but their report very much aligns with all of our reports that we've been publishing with our independent experts, our consultants. And a lot of the $2+ million we've spent is to get some of the best scientists that we can, because the water that we need to drink is so precious that we really can't afford not to spend that kind of vast sum of money.
So you're hopeful that on the 17th, they'll rule in your favor, but there's no guarantee.
Of course, there's no guarantee. So that report recommends to the voting members of the board what to do, but they have full authority to vote against their own commission report, staff report, and do basically whatever they think is best. But it would be very difficult and legally fraught to go against their staff and approve CalAm's desal. And I think there's at least one question in the chat room. What if they do say yes on September 17th? Then it enters probably years of litigation, but who knows? You can never judge, or you can never bank on what the judges are going to do. So we really want to cut it off as soon as we can. We've already spent this much money. It's already taken so many years, and we have an alternative ready to go to get the water that everybody needs, which is recycled water source. So there's really no reason that we're hoping that the Coastal Commission says yes to CalAm. We think they're going to say no, but bigger surprises have happened in the past.
Thanks.
And next up is Susie. I think I've unmuted you, Susie.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my question is, you said that there will be groups who will be talking for 5 minutes. Is that mostly CalAm's groups, or do we have groups to talk to?
Great question. So the groups could be the Sierra Club, it could be Public Water Now, it could be Friends of CalAm, it could be the Steelhead Association. You know, any group, and it's not well defined. I don't believe what a group is. Kathy, you know, do you have a definition of what a group is? And each group gets 5 minutes. And then elected officials, they'll get their own 2 or 3 minutes at 9 o'clock. And then CalAm will probably get 15 minutes. The city of Marina will probably get 15 minutes. So certain agencies get the most time, and then elected officials get their time, and then groups each get 5 minutes. And Kathy said that there's a lot of groups signing up, because I have a feeling the definition of what a group is not so strict to prevent a lot of groups from showing up.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Thank you, Susie.
Okay, and up next is Amy Anderson. You should be able to unmute yourself, Amy.
Yeah,
I'm going to vote for Amy Anderson. Vote for Amy Anderson.
Yay, thank
She's
you.
running for the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, and we need Amy Anderson to win.
And Karen Paul.
Yes.
Yeah. My question, I've been asking neighbors that, you know, to put up my lawn signs. And I talked to 2 neighbors yesterday that live within a block of me, and they're both very well educated people. And they asked me, "Oh, sure, put up a lawn sign." Oh, wait a minute. What's your idea? You know, what do you think? And I said that I wasn't in favor of the CalAm plan. And this guy said to me, "Well, what about the desal?" So, you know, the desal is the CalAm plan, but they didn't understand that. And so they're responding to these postcards from CalAm, and it just, you know, it's very discouraging to me that people, I'm so involved in it, and that people don't carefully, they don't read a paper. They don't read a local paper. So they're not going to get the news about their own communities. So I'm just really, I just guess I'm complaining. There might not be a good answer to that question, but woof. And then the other one who didn't say that admitted it. Well, I don't know much about it either. So both environmentalists too. Shocking, shocking. Got
As
a
long as there's
suggestion?
good, my suggestion is that at least people should have good name recognition when it comes to Amy Anderson. But when we, you know, hope that the majority of people understand complicated issues like this when they're getting information from different directions, saying different things, it's easier to throw up your hands than it is to, you know, dig deep into every issue that has an impact on you. So that's why we're doing tonight, and that's why the Citizens for Just Water are every farmers market every Sunday. You know, that's all you can do is try to outreach to folks. And luckily, there's a lot of science here. It's not just a high school popularity contest of who sends in the most postcards, but that does matter. But fortunately, we have good science and good staff at the Coastal Commission, and hopefully good brain power in the voting commissioners themselves. And people like us will be there on the 17th. Hopefully some people watching tonight who have some new education they didn't have when we started. But it's a team effort, and we just can't depend on everybody to know what's going on in this case. It's very complicated.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks, Amy, for stepping up to be on the Water Management District. Good luck.
Thanks.
All right, and up next, and I think we should probably make this our final question for the evening, just to honor everybody's time. George Riley, you should be able to unmute yourself.
I prefer he stays muted so I can talk about what a powerhouse George has been.
Oh, good.
So thank you, George, for being a powerhouse when it comes to water. And he is serving currently on the Water Management District, the Monterey Peninsula Water Management Districts. So he'll be with Amy Anderson should she be elected, and I hope that she is.
Great.
So George, are you unmuted?
Does not seem to be. Let's see.
So George was someone who was skewered by CalAm, who put out an ad showing George's head decapitated on a stick, calling him the sly fox and not to believe George Riley. So he was personally maligned by CalAm's a very slick flyer that went into everyone's mailbox. It was kind of a gruesome flyer that kind of showed some of us that the extent to which CalAm would go to try to discredit people like George, who's known around the area as one of the people with the most integrity. Doesn't say what he doesn't mean. It doesn't say what he hasn't researched. So to put his head on a stick and tell people that he's a sly fox that can't be trusted was kind of beyond the pale, but that's where politics goes at times.
I see. And it looks like George has no mic. So let me try to find his question here in the chat, and then I will read it for you, George.
We do have a county supervisor with us, Mary Adams. Mary, did you want to say anything? She represents Monterey, Pacific Grove, Carmel, Big Sur. So she's a big player in all this.
Yeah, let me read George's question while I have it up, and then we'll go to Mary next. So George's question is, the CCC staff has issued a report that supports Marina. It's a staff report. The commission, 12 members must vote on it. They need to be nudged to deny the CalAm permit. I see, it's more of a comment then. Yeah. Okay, and now Mary Anderson.
Mary Adams.
I'm sorry.
Supervisor of District 5 in Monterey County.
Great.
Just
Mary.
one re-election, so she's a two-term supervisor so far.
And Mary, if you can type in the chat so I know what handle you're going by. I don't see your name on my...
She's trying to unmute herself. She's under John Bailey.
John Bailey, okay. Yes, I unfortunately I've taken away the power of muting or unmuting, so here, since we were such a large group. Go ahead, Mary.
Thanks so much. Thank you all very much for this terrific presentation. Bruce, I always learn something when you speak, and I really appreciate it. I don't think I can underscore the importance of this action that's coming up before the Coastal Commission September 17th. As I look at the economic injustice that this would put on the people of my district, most of whom are served by CalAm, it's really unbearable. People often think of the Monterey Peninsula as this, wealthy haven. They don't realize that there are so many people who are working people who really would have to be faced with, do I get to stay here or do I pay my water bill? And it's a very serious issue for all of us. Many of us have worked on this issue for a long, long time. And I just lift my hands up in applause. So many people like Bruce and like Kathy and like Amy Anderson and Karen Paul, many of whom have really just put their names and their everything on the line for this particular issue. The one that I think I just have to compliment the most, though, it really is George Riley. I mean, George had the vision, he had the integrity, and he had the charisma to draw people with him. And we're all very fortunate to have him in our community who has helped lead us so much. So with that, I'll just say, don't forget to really participate. It means so much to so many people for centuries. Thanks. Thank you for letting me chat.
Thanks, Mary. It's great to be on the same team.
Thank you.
All right. And I think with that, we should probably wrap it up. Thank you so much, Mayor Delgado. Thank you, Ms. Adams. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, everyone who's passionate about this issue. We will do our parts, write our emails, make our statements, and definitely I'll put that call to action and all the ways that you can help back in this event link, the same link that you used to find this lecture. We'll then, by tomorrow, have the call to action and what you can do to help as well. So thank you
Thanks,
so
Rachel.
much.
Thanks to you. And thanks to, there's a lot of powerful people still with us. Jane Haynes, Jan Schreiner, Karen Anderson, a lot of people that devote their spare time and some of their professional time to good causes. This is one. Dave Stoltz on the line here. He is the general manager of Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. He's one of the brains, one of the mentors of so many people when it comes to water. And you got to have a lot of courage and resilience to stay in these battles, essentially, and hope for a good result at the end. And without people like Dave Stolt, and I see Audra Walton, everyone's been pitching in whatever talents they have, and not just on water issues, but a lot of these people are involved in other issues too. So thanks to Mike Kennedy. Jason Scorsese is here. He's a big Middlebury Institute of International Studies force. And so Rachel, I really appreciate you getting us all together. I don't think we would have if it wasn't for you and Jason. So thanks to everybody for joining us, and keep on moving on here, and let's rock the Coastal Commission on September 17th.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Bruce. Much appreciated.
All right, Jason. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night, everyone.